And it's the top of the hour, 8 o'clock here on the East Coast. The results are coming in from the Democratic primary in Kentucky. It is a tight contest, to say the least. Welcome to our viewers in the United States and around the world. I'm Anderson Cooper in the CNN Election Center with a special edition of AC 360. Key race alert, 55 delegates at stake, and Hillary Clinton had been counting on getting most of them as she tries to put Bernie Sanders away and moves closer to locking up the nomination. But Sanders has won the last two states. He's certainly not going away. As the votes are counted, there's a growing concern among Democrats that a revolt by Sanders supporters could upend their national convention. Violence this weekend at the Nevada State Convention, or at least a lot of anger, is raising fears about chaos in Philadelphia this summer. Sanders supporters were lifting chairs, making threats as Clinton emerged with more delegates. Sanders is unapologetic, saying the violence has cut both ways and his supporters must be treated fairly. As Clinton pivots toward the general election, a pro-Clinton super PAC is unleashing an ad campaign targeting Donald Trump. Trump's comments about women have been turned into TV ads that will air in key battleground states. Both parties have contests tonight in Oregon. Voting ends there at 11 p.m. Eastern. On the Republican side, Trump trying to get closer to locking up the nomination will have the first results in 3 hours. Wolf?
Anderson, thanks very much. Look at how close it is in Kentucky right now. Take a look at this. We'll show the votes. Hillary Clinton is ahead by 147 votes right now. 62% of the vote has actually been counted. 46.6%, 46.6%. Look at how close it is. 260,000 votes have been counted. Hillary Clinton is ahead by 147 votes. Meanwhile, there are some growing concerns right now about a growing split among Democrats. The fear is that the chaos seen this weekend in Nevada could play out at the party's convention in Philadelphia in July. There are urgent efforts underway right now to try to patch up serious differences, but a defiant statement by Bernie Sanders is raising new questions. Let's go to our senior political reporter, Manu Raju. He has the very latest. Manu?
Hey, Wolf, indeed, we have not seen this level of tension between the Democratic Party establishment and the Sanders camp all primary season. But of course, after that Nevada convention, we're seeing Democratic Party leaders raise increasing concern that if Bernie Sanders does not do more to rein in his supporters, or if he doesn't get out of the race when voting concludes on June 7th, it'll be much harder for the party to unite after that July convention. Now, one senior Democrat, Dick Durbin, the number 2 Democrat in the Senate, I had a chance to talk to him earlier today about what he saw in Nevada. And this is what he had to say. He said, "We saw what happened at the Trump rallies, which broke into violence, people punching one another. I don't want to see that happen at the Democratic Party." He's calling on the Sanders campaign to do more. Similarly, Harry Reid had a phone conversation with Bernie Sanders earlier today and believed that they were on the same page going forward. But after Bernie Sanders released a campaign statement saying that actually they don't condone any of the violence, but he criticized party leaders for their own tactics in shutting out their supporters, Harry Reid was very critical of Bernie Sanders, said it was a silly statement. Bernie Sanders could do better, he said. We're seeing this tension intensify in the waning days here, Wolf. We'll see how it plays out.
All right, thanks very much, Mano. Look at how close it is right now. 63% of the vote has now been counted. Bernie Sanders has now taken a slight lead. He's up by 547 votes, 46.6% for Bernie Sanders, 46.5% for Hillary Clinton. It's been going back and forth. A lot of votes have been counted. Look at how close it is in Kentucky right now. I want to bring in the Bernie Sanders campaign manager, Jeff Weaver. He's joining us now live. Jeff, thanks very much for joining us. A lot of tension right now, as you well know. Did your campaign tell your supporters to, quote, take over that Democratic convention in Nevada?
Well, as you know, Wolf, we put out a statement before the convention telling people that they should act civilly and that we should do this in an orderly manner. We obviously do not condone any kind of violence or threats. That's absolutely unacceptable from anybody. But I have to say that I think anybody who've watched this and if you talk to Senator Nina Turner, former senator from state senator from Ohio, who was there on the floor of the convention in Nevada, it was a pretty unfair process. The leadership there that was running it was not following the rules. They were overruling voice votes on the floor to get the result they wanted. And it was a pretty, I think, unfair spectacle.
Yeah, it got pretty ugly. We're showing viewers some of the video, which is very, very powerful. Look at it. You can see it right now. The Nevada State Democratic Party said, and they were blunt, they said, you incited the violence and the chaos. Let me read what they said. Quote, Jeff Weaver's allegations against the state party this morning are blatantly false, and his refusal to apologize for the death threats and harassment against our state party chair that his campaign incited on Saturday is unacceptable. That from the state Democratic Party executive director. So do you want to apologize for that?
Look, as Senator Sanders said, these claims that our campaign is sort of fomenting violence in some way are absolute nonsense. The problem is that there are long simmering concerns about unfair treatment out in the Nevada Democratic Party. I mean, that's been documented. I mean, back in the Clark County convention, they almost tried to arrest their own credentials chair because she was being too fair to the Sanders people. It's been an unfair process out there. Obviously, we do not condone any kind of violence or threats. That's unacceptable. Bad language, that's unacceptable. But we are not going to allow the millions of people who supported Bernie Sanders to be sort of rolled over in places like Nevada by the way they handled that convention.
But I'm sure you'll agree, and I want you to listen to this, because the Nevada Democratic Party chair, Roberta Lang, she actually started receiving death threats from Bernie Sanders supporters who posted her address, her phone number online. I want you to listen to this.
Hi, Roberta Lang. This is a citizen of the United States of America, and I just wanted to let you know that I think people like you should be hung in a public execution to show this world that we won't stand for this sort of corruption. I don't know what kind of money they're paying for you, but I don't know how you sleep at night. You are a sick, twisted piece of shit, and I hope you'll burn for this cowardless running off this stage. I hope people find you.
So Jeff, what can you and Senator Sanders, Senator Sanders supporters, what can you do to stop this kind of vile talk?
Well, we could categorically condemn that kind of talk and those kind of phone calls. There's no doubt about it. Absolutely. 100% condemn them. But let me say this. At the convention, there were clear voice votes from the floor, which were ignored by the chair. You cannot have a convention where you have a process, a parliamentary process, which you then ignore and just do what you want to do, Wolf. That doesn't condone what that gentleman just said on that phone call. That's unacceptable under any circumstances. There's no context in which that is acceptable. But in terms of the process that went on at the Democratic State Party Convention in Nevada, it was unfair, it was clearly one-sided, and there clearly was a result that was wanted that was gotten regardless of what the rules said.
As you know, Senator Sanders did release a statement that seemed to dismiss the concerns raised by the Democratic Party chairwoman in Nevada. And I guess what the critics are saying are asking, does he take any personal responsibility for the actions of his supporters in that state?
Look, you know, Senator has millions and millions of supporters. Obviously, there are some people like that gentleman you had in that phone message who act absolutely outrageously. You know, Secretary Clinton just had one of her celebrity surrogates was just arrested for assaulting 2 Sanders supporters. So this happens all the time, where you have people on the fringes who are not part of the campaign, who are just supporters, who act irresponsibly and unacceptably, and that happens. And we condemn that, absolutely, categorically. But let me say this. That does not excuse the fact that the Democratic Party in Nevada operated their convention in a way that was unfair and against the very rules that they put out.
I guess the big concern among Democrats right now, and you're familiar with this concern, Jeff, is that there could be, that all of these actions potentially could encourage violence at the Democratic convention in Philadelphia in July. There's a lot of concern, as you know, among Democrats that this could happen. What's your message to those folks who are obviously very passionate right now? They don't like the process and potentially could get violent, and we hope it doesn't happen in Philadelphia. Well,
there's not going to be any violence in Philadelphia, Wolf. I guarantee you that. We hope for a fair and orderly convention. I think everybody wants that. I think whoever the ultimate nominee is, we want to unify the party on the back end of the convention so that we can all go out and defeat Donald Trump in the fall. I don't think there's any question about that. What happened in Nevada, I think, is an aberration, in large part driven by the way that party handled itself. You know, we've been involved in conventions all across this country, in states, you know, from one end of the country to the other. Nothing like this has happened. And so this is really anomalous, but it really is, you know, tied to what went on in Nevada itself.
Jeff, look at how close it is in Kentucky right now. 65% of the vote has already been counted. Bernie Sanders has a lead of 2,236 votes. He's got 46.9%. Hillary Clinton has 46.1%. It's very, very close. What's your prediction? What about Kentucky tonight?
Well, given how close it is, Wolf, I don't know that I have a prediction, because this is a state that the secretary won overwhelmingly in 2008. So I think we're seeing here what we saw in West Virginia, which is another state that she won overwhelmingly in 2008 and then lost by double digits just last week. I think there are a lot of Democrats who are having, second thoughts. I know the media is really ready to call this race over, but I think voters in the various states want to see this race go on. I think they want to hear more from the candidates about where they want to take the country. And so I don't think the voters are ready for this race to be over.
And we'll be standing by to hear directly from Senator Sanders later tonight. He's out in California, and you saw those long lines, a huge crowd getting ready to hear him. We'll have live coverage of that coming up as well. Jeff Weaver, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf. Happy to do it.
Thank you.